I'm so glad you've joined us here today because I've got great news. I've got the amazing, beautiful lady and artist Julie Podstolski. Julie is going to be leading us on a journey into what it's like to live a creative life. And Julie has an amazing history. I can't wait to share her art with you. I can't wait to share her inspiration and her daily life. I'm going to introduce you. How are you going there, Julie?
Hello,
Hey,
I'm
hello.
thrilled to be here.
That's exciting. Thank you. And for our readers, if you don't know the amazing Julie yet, I'm just going to read out her bio for you so you can get a bit of background on who Julie is. So, Julie began working in oils during her art school years, but soon after her third daughter Lucy came into her life, she realized the frustration of juggling wet paint with new motherhood. She went out and bought pencils and paper and never looked back. Julie works in the medium of coloured pencil as a professional artist, and since 1989, Julie has held 18 exhibitions across Sydney, New Zealand, and Western Australia, exploring subjects ranging from landscapes and cityscapes to Kyoto, Geisha, Paris, Venice, birds, and light. She's also developed her own signature style she calls coloured pencil impressionism. Her work has been recognised with numerous awards, and today she finds presenting a body of work, a complete body of work, more rewarding than entering competitions and exhibitions. And I find that just so wonderful. Art is Julie's friend and companion, and creating her vision with coloured pencils is, in her words, her recipe for a fulfilled life. How does that sound, Julie? Is that sounding
That's
like you?
it sounds perfect, Cindy. Yes.
So, welcome. Can you just tell us, tell our viewers whereabouts you are in the world right now?
I am in Fremantle, basically, just over the border from Fremantle in a place called North Coogee. In Sydney, you'd say Coogee. Here it's the same spelling, but it's Coogee. And because I once lived in Sydney in Coogee, I still get mixed up, even though I've lived in North Coogee for 17 years. So anyway, Western Australia. It's a
Eh,
suburb of Perth.
So, Julie, what would you say the sort of prominent industry is there where you live?
Well, we're close to Fremantle Port. We're just down the road from the port. So a great deal of shipping, lots of things come into Western Australia through where I live and go out again. So we have goods trains going past us.
Whenever I think about industries in our
Yeah,
area, I always think what influences your work. And so
yeah,
when you look around you, in your immediate environment where you live, do
yeah.
when you're creating your work, you have this vast body of work, different bodies of
Mm,
work. And so can we talk a little bit about, first of all, how you first moved into professional art? Like, what was that like? How I don't have to say your exact age if you don't want to, but
oh, no, that's all right.
can you
66.
take us back to the beginning? Like, how did it happen? Even bring in some of your childhood. I absolutely love hearing what was it like. So we like to start from the beginning. What was it like
Mm.
as a child, your experience with drawing?
I just drew from as soon as I could hold a pencil or a crayon. I have older brother and sister, so they had art materials, which of course I wasn't allowed to touch, which made them even more like, oh, let me at them. So there was just a lot of art in our family. My sister and brother both did lots of drawing and painting, and my brother became a painter too, but very abstract, completely couldn't be more opposite to me if he tried. Uh, so I just used to spend hours drawing by myself. I mean, I had friends, but when I was at home, well, my mother, she was a typist and she would bring home reams of scrap paper from work, which was really wonderful. And um, old pens and things, which still had a bit of life in them, and early, very early, what you'd call now texters. When I was a child, there were felt pens, but only four colors: red, blue, black, and green. And then as I grew a little older, there were like 12 colors. So, texters, they were something that I relished. Um, as I got a little older, maybe late primary school, I was allowed to use the colored pencils of my sister. And I can still remember it was a box of Cumberland, Derwent Cumberland. I can still remember the smell, just opening the box and that
Oh,
wood
I love that
smell.
smell. Me too.
Yeah,
Especially when you
yes,
open a new box. But isn't it? It's always there, isn't it? Even the next time
yes.
you open them.
Yes, that's right. And my sister also had some watercolors, which also had a beautiful smell in a tin, a black tin box. And I remember them very well. So it was um, a foregone conclusion that when I was choosing what stream to go in for high school, I chose the art stream. So so I was in a class called 3 art in the third form and then 4 art in the fourth form. We still had to do, French and maths and that sort of thing, but we didn't have to do Latin. Latin was only for the top kids. So the art stream was considered kind of in the middle. Um, with the lower streams. This is back then. You've got to think, early 1970s. So back then in our school, the lower streams were home economics and commercial. And then there was art, then there were the math streams and the Latin. So I was right in the middle. And I was really bad at maths. I just have to let you know that when it came to school certificate, which is the fifth form, I got 24%, which is quite something. I was reasonably good at English, but my best subject was art. And so I went through high school, and when I got to the seventh form, which is the last year in high school, I did what was called a fine arts prelim or preliminary. And that was the whole year putting together a portfolio to send off to the examination board. And if I got a high mark, then I would be accepted to art school, to one of the art schools in New Zealand. The choice was between Auckland University and Canterbury University. Well, I didn't get a high mark. I only got 158 out of 300, which was one of the, I
Oh,
passed, but
goodness.
only just because it was,
Oh.
how art is so, well,
Ambiguous, really, isn't it? It's very.
yes,
And so that must have felt really devastating. How did you respond to that?
my art teacher was devastated. She was horrified. But the thing is, I still got into art school, amazingly enough.
Really? That's
But
fantastic.
but people with low fine arts prelim scores were probably not expected to make it through art school. They might have been culled in the first year, but I got all the way through. But I was never the flavor of the month at art school because I was a realist. And at the time, my art school time was between 1978 and 1980. Abstract expressionism was the thing. And so, and we never really learned, it's interesting, we never really learned how to use oil paints, even though I actually majored in painting. It was more creating abstracts that the tutors would like. We never learned traditional methods at art school, not at all.
Does that
It,
mean that you also didn't really learn to draw or
yeah,
drawings
no, we
as
did.
well?
Sorry, I shouldn't interrupt. We did learn to draw, and once a week we had life drawing class, which I really hated. Would you believe? Even though I loved drawing, and at high school we also, because I was in the art class, we also used to do life drawing, but we'd be, one of the kids in the class would be the model, and they were clothed, obviously, because it was a girls' school. They were clothed, and I loved doing life drawing then because I really enjoyed drawing clothes over the human form. But when it came to a nude, I just found it so boring. And I was not good at it, but I had to pass it because if I didn't pass the different units, I wouldn't get a diploma of fine arts.
Well, that really makes sense, Julie, that you absolutely love fabrics and folds because so much of your body of work really displays the most incredible folds. And actually, can you believe it? That is what attracted me to your work in the first place. And I've been following your work for years. It
Oh,
just comes into my emails. I go, oh, that's gorgeous. And it was actually the beautiful women that you draw. And there's
Mm.
one piece that I noticed lately too that I really, really love and admire, and it's the Ponto Perfect. So I've popped it up here on the screen for everyone to see. Look at this gorgeous artwork. I mean, look at those folds, they're incredible. And the way that you've actually captured the pattern and everything and the
Mm.
environment, Julie. It's as though, and I think you said this somewhere, that your art is all entwined with the environment. Can you tell
That's
me a little
right.
bit more about that? The fold, we're talking about folds. So,
Yes.
tell me a bit more about your folds and what that experience was like when you're creating this
Yes.
artwork.
Well, I just love the way the geisha, these are geisha. I love the way when they walk, the way the folds move, and this beautiful sort of feminine um, floating, this gorgeous floatiness. Um, and I also, well, the other thing I love is narrow spaces. So I love narrow lanes. I love, well, I guess intimacy is the word. So the narrow, long, narrow lane, which I also get out of Venice and Paris. Um, there's something very feminine about that to me. It's the opposite of, uh, for instance, Munich, which is big and male and um, yes, sort of the strongman thing. Strongman doesn't interest me at all. It's the female intimate space, and I find Kyoto, Paris, and Venice all have a feminine vibe to me. Those three cities, and that's why I just love going there. I've been there. I've been to Kyoto 22 times in
Wow, that's a
22
lot,
years.
isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Um, I don't think I'm going to go for a little while because actually it's getting too busy. It's become a tourist hotspot, so it's changed a bit. But and I also love London, but even though I love London, to me it didn't have that feminine quality. So even though I love it, I never wanted to make art of London. Isn't that funny?
I think it's really interesting because I always like to relate your artistic experiences now back to your past. And that's why I
Mm.
think it's so important. And you were talking about drawing the feminine form and the nude, and
Yes.
you didn't like that so much. And yet you love fabrics and folds. And that sounds like
Yes.
it's carried right through everything that you're doing. So I find that fascinating. So you see
Yes.
more flow, and just the way you spoke then is so inspiring. So let's just go back then and continue the story of where you were at. So, you were painting these beautiful fabrics and folds. Just
Yes.
tell us a little bit more about when you transferred your skills and knowledge into a professional life, if you could do that now. Tell us about that because it's so interesting.
Well, that was way back. My first exhibition was actually in 1981. And that was, believe it or not, well, that was with my brother and his wife. So Claire Riley, she's a really great New Zealand painter, really fantastic. So you can always look up Claire Riley. Um, so back in 1981, we three had an exhibition together, and it was actually using Neocolor crayons back then. And I just used to do plein air. So I'd just walk around Christchurch and Wellington and just draw with my Neocolor. I still have, I still have Neocolor, Karen
Oh,
Dash, and I still actually use them sometimes in my work. But so that was my first. There were three of us in the exhibition. Then what happened? We moved to Sydney, and just kept exhibiting. So I think my next exhibition might have been 87 or something. It just every now and then I'd have exhibitions. I actually don't like exhibiting. I just want you to know that. I don't
really?
like Yes, and the funny thing is whenever I say, oh, I'm having an exhibition, the first thing is, oh, congratulations. And I always think, well, it's not really congratulations. It's just something you have to do. If you're a full-time artist, you've got to get the work out there.
Yeah,
But
so tell me why you don't like exhibitions. I mean, isn't that the moment that you get to share your work with others and celebrate
yes,
it? And tell me about that. Tell me why you don't.
I don't because I'm an introvert.
Okay.
And I'm probably most comfortable at home doing my work. and I have to pull out a different part of my personality to exhibit. And I actually do it. I do become more extrovert. And in fact, if I'm once I'm having an exhibition, there is a momentum that builds as you're getting nearer and nearer. And then, you have one starts advertising and all that stuff that you have to do. And then there is a kind of excitement that goes with it. And then gradually I find there is the side of me that comes out that's able to talk to people all day, every day for 2 weeks. And it's okay, but I don't look forward to that. And then when the exhibition is over, I have to put that side of me away because because at the end of the exhibition, well, that extrovert side is still there. And what am I going to do with it now? Because I'm going home again. And then it goes back down. And then I find this peace again, the peace that I didn't have while I was exhibiting. So look, in actual fact, I don't mind it, but there are things that I get very stressed about during an exhibition, mainly what is selling and what's not selling, and am I getting the red dots fast enough, and that sort of thing, because it's an investment of money. To have an exhibition costs quite a lot. People don't realize that, but it does. It costs a lot to put on an exhibition. And then, so you don't only want to break even, you want to make some money as well. So there's always that sort of little niggling thing unless I sold everything on the opening night, which has never ever happened. And by the way, I've never had a sellout either, but I usually sell about 3/4.
That's
So, but
very good to
yeah,
sell
but
quarters. Mm.
yeah, but it happens over the 2 weeks. So I might even get a sale or two on the very last day.
Yes,
Yeah, so I think I
I can
probably,
relate to that. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And
So,
often it's the momentum because people come back. I mean, I remember my first sellout
mm,
exhibition that I ever had.
yeah.
And I remember the first night, yeah, we sold about half, half the room.
Mm,
But then over the next few weeks, and then I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but in the last few days, bang, more pieces sell, and then you've got your
yeah,
sellout. But it
yeah,
is like that in an exhibition. I
yeah,
was really interested listening to you then, though, when you
mm,
spoke about the introvert, extrovert, and
yeah.
so many other artists that I speak to feel like that as well. It's sort of like this build up that, oh, I've got to actually step out and speak about my work and
Mm,
show people my work. And
yeah,
it's like you've got to get a bit of this performance anxiety, isn't it?
definitely,
What you described. Yeah,
definitely.
yeah. And
Yeah.
so, in preparation for that, would you always say, well, I guess in hindsight, thinking about all that preparation and
Mm.
everything that you do for an exhibition, would you say that it's a kind of like performance anxiety and then a letdown after, or
You're 100% right. It's exactly that. It's performance anxiety, and there's always a letdown. And the letdown isn't even actually anything to do with sales. It's more just like, ah, what do I do with this energy now? But it does dissipate, and that energy goes away, but then this sort of peace comes back in its place. And also, people do say, oh, what a lot of work every time I have an exhibition. So I want you to know that it isn't. I always say, no, it's actually a lot of fun, because whether I've got something to work towards or not, I'm just drawing anyway. So for the last 5 drawings that I've done, I haven't known what's going to happen to them. It's just I just draw them because I've just got to get up and draw. And then just in the last week or so, an exhibition possibility has come up. Well, it's going to happen in late October. So it's not that I'm ever drawing towards an exhibition. It's just I'm drawing anyway, and the exhibition is just kind of a byproduct of that.
I find that really interesting. And I mean, that's what a true artist sort of feels like, don't they? I mean, we create our art because we have to. It's a
Yes.
language that we use to express ourselves, and it's just a part of us. It's just a deep part of us. And to get into that position of creating art every day, you did speak about the cost. Of course, it does
Mm,
cost financially, time-wise, and all of
mm.
that. did you ever have a job? Like you talk a lot about going from art school straight into exhibitions,
Mm.
but did you have a job? And if you did you keep drawing and creating art during that time?
Yes, I did have a job. Well, I had raised three children. That's one thing. But also, I went, once we came to Sydney, well, yeah, because my first few years in Australia were in Sydney, I went to secretarial school. And well, no, first I worked in bookshop because I really love books. So I worked in Dimmicks for years, for a couple of years. Then I went to secretarial school and I learned medical typing. So I worked in medical records departments of public hospitals and would dictaphone typing. So, the doctors would do their patient reviews and speak into a dictaphone, and then I would type up the letters going back to the GPs that the specialists had written. I did that. I loved that because I like words, and I had to learn medical terminology, and I had to learn all about the body and our different systems, and so I really, really enjoyed that. And yes, I was always drawing and painting at the same time.
And I think it's really interesting to take notice of when you went full time as an artist. Did that happen naturally? Can you tell us about that when you decided to go full time? And what age were
Yeah.
you, if you don't mind me asking?
Mm. It was when I had two daughters. I decided I'd had enough of medical typing and I wanted to just be a stay-at-home mum and be a full-time artist. Now, that would have been still in the 80s. So I think maybe it was 89, end of the 80s.
And how
Yes.
did you support yourself with your art career?
Okay. I've n- I would I've never been able to make enough money to support myself. Even, because I only exhibit every couple of years, I make money, but it's not enough to support myself. I have a husband who was a civil engineer. And, so it was very traditional. I brought up the kids, he brought home the money, but I also painted, so it was a nice life, I must admit.
And that's marvelous because really the work and the what you contribute to the family, raising the children, that's actually a full-time job anyway.
It
So
is.
you were already working a full-time job.
Yes.
And it's such an incredible, incredible asset that you're
Yeah.
giving already. So basically, if you sold things, you sold some art, there's a bonus
Yes.
on top. Maybe it helped you to pay for your art materials.
Yeah, and my husband, one
Mm.
thing that really drew him to me was that I was an artist. So
Ooh.
I met him. This is quite funny because I moved into a student flat with five engineers, and he was one of them. And I was the art school kid moving into the student flat. And quite symbolically, he carried my paintings in to the house,
Oh
which
my gosh, that's so
so it was
romantic.
it was romantic, and so he's always loved the fact that I'm an artist and has encouraged it
Oh.
the whole
So,
time.
Julie, let's just go back now and really have a good look at your series. I want to just focus on a few of the series. I'd love to begin by asking you more about your Kyoto and Geisha series because they're so beautiful with all those fabrics and folds, and it's so exotic. And my goodness, you do such an incredible job with those. Can you tell me more about what inspired you to create that series in the first place? And just tell us more about your series.
It all started because my husband Matthew went into business with a Japanese company, and so we had to, and I'm saying had to on purpose because I really didn't want to go. There was um, a shareholders meeting in Japan, and wives had to come too. And I was so terrified. I knew that um, back then, we're talking 2002, so it's quite a long time ago. And I knew that manners were very important, and one didn't want to do the wrong thing. And even, how to hold chopsticks and eat with chopsticks, I was worried about because we were going to be going to corporate events, and I didn't want to make a fool of myself. And so I was terrified. Anyway, I he forced me onto the plane and off I went to Japan. And it was like the scales fell from my eyes. When I got there, it was an Alice in Wonderland moment. And I looked around and thought, oh my God, this place is incredible. And then, so I really started to enjoy myself. But on the last evening, we were taken to Kyoto. And there I saw a young Maiko, and a Maiko is an apprentice geiko or geisha. The Kyoto word is geiko for a geisha, arts woman or arts person. Gay means art. Uh, anyway, I saw a young Maiko and I got a photo, and I came, or two photos actually, came home and drew from these photos. And then I thought, I'm hooked. And I think probably not that long before I'd read Memoirs of a Geisha. So I couldn't believe that this novel, I think it's Arthur Golden or something. Um, anyway, uh, then I wanted to know everything I could about geisha. So I started reading and reading, and there were opportunities to keep going back. So after Matt having to drag me there, I was saying, when can I go back? I need to go back. So I actually went back a few months later and then continued to go back until I would go by myself without him. And I'd always
Wow.
go to Kyoto because I was just so taken with not just it was the aesthetic, the whole, the designs of the kimono, the hair pieces, all the art that went into making a maiko or a geiko, including the maiko and geiko's years of learning how to move and how to dance and play instruments. That they're really traditional. um, um, I've forgotten the word, performers of Japanese arts. So, some people think erroneously that they are like prostitutes. Not at all. They're very refined. They're, if anything, Maiko and Geiko, it's more like being nuns yes, it's their whole lives are really dedicated to the arts.
That's
And
quite incredible. And
yes,
just you telling me about them even more makes me even more curious.
yes,
But I love that the way you've just said that they're dedicated to the arts of
yes,
Japan. And that's
yes.
just amazing in itself, isn't it?
Mm,
And the way you describe their beautiful fabrics, and they're so, so
yeah,
pretty. Wow, so that's great. I loved hearing that about the reasoning. I always like to know
yeah,
the reason why you create a body
yeah.
of work. And then you've created quite a few different bodies of work. Is there one in particular that you'd like to talk about? I'm going to put my hand up and say, can you please talk about your new bird series as well? But I want to save
Well,
that to a bit later. I'd
yes.
love to hear about another one of your series in between. What would you like to choose to talk about?
Well, let me just say I am a flâneur, and I'm not sure if I say that right. Flâneur is a French word, or because I'm a woman, it might be flâneuse, but I still don't know how you say it. But it's a person who walks and observes. Charles Dickens was one. So you just walk around and look at the world and take it all in. And I do this with my camera. And so something that I have just loved so much is looking at different cities, just walking these cities, photographing, and then and I keep a journal as well. So all my impressions are written down every day so I don't forget while I'm away. And then coming home and through my photos, going back to those cities. So I'm immersing myself in hindsight, like, so when I'm drawing Kyoto, Ponte Perfect, or if I'm in Paris, or Venice. Venice was my latest one. Um, I did the exhibition about Venice in 2021. Um, I'd been there several times, and it's that same feminine thing, Venice. Oh, yes, the other thing I must just say, I love mystery. And Venice, like Kyoto and like Paris, I'm an outsider, you know, and And it's like these are secret worlds. Venice is all smoke and mirrors. But so is Kyoto. There's so much that you can only guess at because they're internal protected worlds. And so that's why I want to read and read and read and learn as much as I can. But it's quite nice being an outsider too and having this mystery. And I often feel that if I knew everything, it wouldn't be mysterious and it wouldn't be quite so exciting. So
You
that's
know, just
another big
you
aspect.
speaking about it, it just takes me into another world. I love listening to you. It's just a real escapism. It's
Yeah,
so
it is.
beautiful. Can you tell me a little bit more about the photography, though, that
Oh,
experience?
yes.
Take us a little bit more into that world because it's always addictive listening to you.
Oh, that's so
Tell me
lovely.
more.
I going back to art school, I had to do photography at art school. It was a core subject, so I had to get a single lens reflex camera, an SLR. So I learnt a bit of photography, basic photography. Like I'm not a very technical photographer, but it's enough what I know, enough for my drawing. And I've always loved walking with a camera, and I've had a camera all my life. I have various different lenses because you need a different lens for little birds to what you need for photographing in the street. And it's just when I walk in these different cities, um, I don't know what I'm looking for. You know, I just walk and I try to have a just have an open mind. And then I'll see something. It might even be street art. And as you know, I have a series of street art as well. And that's looking at which I haven't seen so much street art lately, but a few years ago it was a really big thing. And in all these cities, you could find the most beautiful street art. And I'm not talking about graffiti, which is ugly, but there is some very refined and gorgeous street art out there. And it's so temporary. You know, it's there for a little while and then the wind and the rain will wash it away and it's gone. And so I had an idea. I'd love to I'd love to record and draw this and give it some sort of permanence. So I had a whole exhibition in 2004 on street art, which is, you know, and yes, and I often again go for the feminine. So if you looked on my website on there is a body of work called street art, you'll see that the things that I've chosen are never ugly things, but they're often depicting women in some form.
Oh. What's this one titled? Can you tell us about that too, Julie?
This one is Once Upon a Wall. I actually did win an award with this one, so it's here in Perth. It was just, it was one I came across in Paris, and you can see it looks like a beautiful woman in a ball gown. I came across it on a Paris wall, this, and I was so taken with it, but it was really dilapidated. So it looks like a gorgeous woman, and I don't know what it had looked like originally, but it had been so weathered. But I thought, oh, what a pity it's not, you know, more new, that I haven't come across it in a newer state, but I'll take a photo anyway. Anyway, I got back to Australia and then I kept looking at this and I thought, but the dilapidation is kind of neat as well. And isn't it funny that all this um, crinkled wall, it kind of looks like this great big dress, like and you know, like I can't even think of the fabric that maybe even 18th century, or you know, when they had those huge, or no, 19th century is when they had the hoops, the
Oh,
hoops and the
yes.
great big huge skirts with tons and tons of petticoats underneath. There was something about that, and I just thought, well, even though it's really dilapidated, I'm going to make a drawing of it. And so I called it Once Upon a Wall because it almost looked to me like Cinderella after midnight when everything's disintegrating. So to me it was a fairy tale, and
Oh,
that was my take on it.
That's so beautiful. And that's a really good analogy, isn't it? I love that title. That title really does connect us to the
Yes,
idea that once upon a time it was in its full
yes,
glory and now it's aged, but it's so authentic as well. I'm really
yes.
so glad that you created that artwork. It's beautiful. So, can you tell us more then? We're going to just move into another body of work. And like I said, I'd love you to speak with us about your recent series. I love these little blue wrens that you're painting.
Oh,
And if you could tell me more about your experiences getting your
mm.
reference material, where do you go? How do you get the chance of getting these great photos? Tell me more about your bird series, if that's
I,
okay.
I would love to tell you about my birds because this is my latest series. Well, no, I've been doing it for quite a while, but I'm fully into it at the moment. Um, I have a, I do have a secret garden that I go to. It's in Perth's Hills, and it's a botanic park. It's called Araluen Botanic Park. It was made in the 1930s. That's when it was developed, and then it went into disrepair, and and then it was redeveloped in the 90s. And it's most um, famous because in the springtime it's a huge display of tulips, huge. But I tend to not like it when they're having their spring festival because it's so busy. But I love it all the rest of the year. Anyhow, I go with my camera, and let me tell you how the birds really began. I love traveling, and I'd recently been in Venice, and all of a sudden it was COVID 2020 and couldn't travel anymore. I had another trip booked to Venice. It had to be cancelled exactly 6 years ago now, March 2020. Um, and so I had some Venice I could keep working on, but then once that finished, I thought, well, what am I going to do now? I'm just not interested in my own environment. I only want other places. This was me with I was closed. And then I just happened to see a little bird, and I thought, birds, I love birds. I could do birds. And it was just this light bulb moment in 2020. And off I went. I began with a little silver eye, that was my first bird, and then a New Holland honeyeater. And then I realized I needed a different kind of lens to get my bird photos. So I bought a new lens, and I just started being a flâneur again, walking with my camera, but locally. I didn't have to get on a plane. And then I rediscovered Araluen Botanic Park and realized that a lot of birds that I thought I had to go to the southwest to see, like Margaret River, they're actually all there in Perth's Hills, and they're there at Araluen Botanic Park. So the various different fairy wrens are there. There's actually 4 different types of fairy wrens in our Perth area.
Did you know you're not going to believe this, right? Or you probably will believe it because I'm saying it.
Yeah.
The blue wren has been my favorite bird ever since I was really young because it was a
Oh.
little blue wren that would hop along my windowsill because I don't know if you know much about me, but I had ME, myalgic
Oh,
encephalomyelitis.
right.
So I was like disabled at 23. And that was my turning point when I became a full-time artist. But anyway, I wanted to tell you this because the little blue wren
Oh,
also really stood out. And that was one of the really big motivating factors for me interviewing you as well, because I had seen this blue wren that you had drawn. And I really, really love the little one that you've just sent me for this interview that I'm doing for you. Blue Beauty. Can we just show that? I'm going to put it on your screen so that you can tell us about this one here, Blue Beauty. So can you tell us a story tell me about what it was like how easy or hard it was to photograph and just the journey of drawing.
twice a year, my daughter Lucy, who was the same one who was born, and that's why I started colored pencils. Twice a year, she comes to Perth, and she loves photographing birds with me. So she has a camera, and we both go off together and look for birds. And Blue Beauty was one of the birds that we both photographed when she was here in August last year. Um, And it's a funny thing. I just have to say, it's a very funny thing. But most of the birds I end up drawing are ones from when Lucy and I were together photographing them, which is amazing because I go looking at birds so many times a year. But I think I have such joy when Lucy is with me that they seem to be the ones that I gravitate towards to draw. So this little blue wren came out of the undergrowth, and sometimes they're very fast. They're so fast that most of a lot of the time you just can't get them. But sometimes you get little ones that seem to like to pose. And he stood there for a while and went into different positions. So I was able, this is actually my second drawing in a different position of that same little wren. Yes.
Wow. I think that's
So,
a miracle in itself to
mm,
actually get a wren to stay still.
oh, yes, they do. They do. Yes, they do. But very often it is just a split second. But the gorgeous thing about when I'm out there photographing them, I keep very still, and sometimes they'll come right up to my feet. It's like I'm so still. Maybe I look like a tree, and they come so close. And with blue wrens, the closer they come, the smaller they look, which is just a funny thing. So when they're just at my feet, it's like, oh my God, this thing is so tiny, but so much personality. And that's what I feel. I feel they have tremendous personality, and that's what I'm trying to capture. And you did mention feathers. Well, I don't think I can draw feathers at all. I just fudge them. I just I think what I'm doing is managing to trick my eye and your eye into thinking this is a bird with feathers.
That's
Um,
fabulous, though. And often the
yeah,
best drawings are like that because you're
yeah,
capturing light and shade most of
yes,
all. And it's all about that, isn't it? Drawing is all about light and shade. And when you capture it the
yes.
right way, yes, it does. And well, it works incredibly well. Your birds are just beautiful. And then the latest one that you've shared too, that I actually got that in my newsletter, is gorgeous amongst the flowers.
Oh,
Can you
yes.
tell us the name of that one and a bit more about that little one?
Yes, that one is called Who Goes There? Because he has just now, this is a different kind of fairy wren. This is a red-winged fairy wren. So the other one was a splendid fairy wren, Blue Beauty. And oh, by the way, Blue Beauty is a play on You Beauty, like they say in Australia, You Beauty, Blue Beauty. And Who Goes There is because he's just popped out of the camellia bush. And it's like he's going, so who are you? Me with my camera. He's giving me that look. And so who goes there? It's me. It's Julie with my camera. I'm in your space.
And
But
you really captured that moment for sure. So
yeah,
let's just have a look at that too. I've got it on the screen there next to you so we can all see that beautiful image. Look at that. It's absolutely
yeah.
stunning. And it's so much detail. And actually, it's interesting. I tried to comment on your post, but it just wouldn't work. You know how you try to do a comment and it just
Oh
doesn't work.
yes.
But I wanted to say to you, I wanted to say, hey, Julie, your drawing is more realistic than the photo to me.
Oh yes.
It's just got more soul, it's got more
Yes.
color and more feeling. And look, we can see it now anyway. I get to say it now to you in person, which is even
Thank you.
beautiful.
Well, that's an interesting
Gorgeous.
point too, because
Yes.
people often say to me something which is meant as a compliment, and I never like it, and that is, "Oh, that looks just like a photo," or "That's as good as a photo." Whereas what I'm doing, and thank you very much, that's very kind, but what I'm doing is, and this is what I explain to people if they'll give me the time, I'm going back through the photo. It is like Alice again going down the rabbit hole. I'm going through the photo to pull out my experience.
And we
And
can
so
see that. Mm.
I'm putting so much more in. I'm not even trying to make it look like a photo. I'm
Mhm.
trying to recreate the experience for my own joy
And
and then for other people's joy. Yes.
sorry to interrupt. I'm just so excited to talk about this subject because I
Yeah.
just love this subject. And I feel that that is the biggest thing that I've really admired about your work is that it has soul in it, and we can see your
Thank you.
soul coming out. And I think it's even for me personally, watching you grow over the years, and I've been watching your body of work for many years, on and
Mm,
off, just in my inbox or on your
yeah,
website. It's just come into my life. And I've noticed that you're getting even more depth, even more soul. And it's not even more realistic because you
that's
do paint
right.
extremely, paint in color
Mm,
pencils. You
mm,
do create art extremely realistically, but there is something more and more and more. It's like you're going deeper and deeper. So, do
yeah.
you experience that, or is that just me seeing it?
No, I think I'm experiencing it. And I think if you keep doing something for a long time, you're just going to get deeper and richer. I think whatever it is, it
Yeah.
just evolves, it just keeps evolving.
Well, it's
Yeah.
very beautiful what you're doing, Julie. And I think that's a wonderful note to end on because this has just been the most amazing experience. And I could talk to you all day. It's
Yes,
just so
same.
Oh, it's just beautiful. You're an incredible artist, and it's been just such an honor to have you in this interview.
Oh, thank
Thank
you.
you. Well, thank you for opening up your heart to the world to talk about the true, deep Julie and what's deeply inside of you. So it's an absolute honor. So thank you, Julie, for being.
And thank you. I've loved it. Just loved it.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Thank you, Cindy.
Glad. So I'm going to end the podcast now and thank you, everybody. The details are below if you'd like to see more of Julie's work, and I will see you in another video. So have a beautiful day. Bye for now.